Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf coming at you with another video. Alright, thanking God for allowing me to live another day. Nothing particularly happened. Just sometimes it's good to have that in mind. Not guaranteed nothing. A lot of times moving a life in one direction, trying to make things happen, and you take for granted that tomorrow's coming and the next day is coming and the next day is coming. And it doesn't often happen for everyone. Everybody does have to get out of here in that regard. So I'm thankful that the Lord saw me worthy of another day. So I had some things to do today, and I'm trying to get them done. Laundry, lots of it. I haven't done laundry since last Wednesday, before I made the transfer from room to room, and it's one of those situations where now it's piled up to where I needed to use several machines to get everything done. So that's what I'm doing right now. I decided to wash those shoes, wash the green backpack, that brownish whatever backpack that I'm always carrying. I threw that in the washer, and all of the clothes, all of the sheets, all the sweaters, everything that I've been wearing all for the last 8 days all had to be washed at the same time. So yeah, that was the thing. Put that all in there. It's in the dryer now, and now I gotta go purchase some things from Target that I should have purchased the last time I went. So that's really what it is. I wanted to make a bigger grocery run, but since I had so much laundry, to the point where it piled up so heavy that I had to use 2 bags, I couldn't put it off another day. It wasn't no way I could put that off another day. So yeah, man, I also wanted to go to Trader Joe's to get some trail mix, because I've been running through that stuff. My body loves that, it seems. So I wanted to get some of that, but I don't think that's going to be done today. I think I'll probably put that off and do it tomorrow, or if I go to Hollywood, try to make that a mission. So yeah, man, just taking care of the grown-up stuff that I gotta do. Trying not to make a mountain out of a molehill as it pertains to these tasks. And that's exactly how I was feeling this morning. I'm like, man, I got too much I want to do. I've run out of certain things, so I gotta go certain places. And I just get to a point where it's like, it's not that serious. And not only is it not that serious, but a lot of this is routine at this point. So when there ain't nothing to stress over, sometimes minds like mine will create things to stress over, and it ain't about much. So yeah, that's really what it is. Same old routine. Walk down to Target while the stuff is in the dryer, come back, fold it all up, and call it a day. And that's really it. I got the bigger backpack with me, since of course the other one's in the dryer right now. So, and I decided not to put the shoes in the dryer. I think the most damage comes from putting the shoes in the dryer. I air clean those, or air dry those rather, in the window. So that's my take on things. I think it's much worse when you put it to heat, have it tumbling around and stuff like that. So I figured I'd just try to limit the damage. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna want to wash them probably 2 or 3 more times before I think that it clean as I want them to be. So it's been frustrating with them damn shoes, but just gotta live with the mistake I made. So it is what it is, man. We trek off to Target. So yeah, man, what's going on in the world? A lot, man. Obviously a lot with everything that's happening with our country and everything that's going on and different things. I can't even pinpoint what it is I've been thinking about, what is supposed to be the theme of whatever it is I'm talking about right now. I have no idea. Too busy thinking about what I have to do in my own personal life, to be honest with you today. But it's a lot going on, man. People trying to justify things they have no business justifying. I saw this preacher, man, get on TV and said he's a friend to PDF files, because in the interest of Christ and what he teaches us. And then he harkened back to what we always say in regards to walking amongst people who have done wrong, and who, Jesus walked with people who were of the streets in this modern era, we would call them. That ain't saying nothing to do with harming children. And see, that's the thing. When people want to pick and choose when they want to apply certain rules and certain justifications, they want to kick people out for certain things, but then they want to welcome people in when it serves their interests. And in this case, this is somebody obviously who understands that a lot of powerful people are basically being outed as PDF files. And a lot of those people don't want to lose those connections. A lot of those people don't have a whole lot of faith that these individuals are going to be held accountable for this, but they do think they'll still be in power. And so they're hitching the train on the winning side. As I often say, a lot of times that's what these godless people do. A good portion of people who say they're of God, they ain't of God in a lot of cases. They're of the earth. And they subject of God is a means of gaining credibilities where they otherwise wouldn't have any. Credibility, connections, opportunities, a voice, fame. They can check all of those boxes by being a clergy person, having all types of attention on them, people trusting them with things they have no business trusting them with, like their children and money. So a lot of these people are evil as hell. They serve Satan or serve themselves, both one and the same. And so in this case, he's saying he's a friend to PDF files. And he hopes that he can minister to them and have them turn away from their ways. And my thing is, don't put that off on Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ walked with people of whom he knew their hearts, their interests and their practices were knowledge. He was knowledgeable of what was going on in the inside of them, their circumstances, why they did what they did, position from which they grow. He wasn't walking amongst people who were just doing any old thing. That's what gets mistaken. The Jesus walked with people who weren't practicing the most righteous behaviors, but he's also God and he understood their hearts. He knew what was inside of them. So when he walked with them, he knew he wasn't walking with the devil himself in the form of human beings. We as human beings don't have the ability to discern whether or not the people we're dealing with are good people, so to speak, or bad people. We just got to trust whatever it is that they're doing is what it's supposed to be. How you doing, brother?
How you doing, man?
Man, trying to preach a good word if I can.
Nice day,
Hey, it's a good one, ain't it? Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. And that's what it is. We don't know if people are good or bad. We don't know if people are evil or wicked or mean well or don't mean well, or if they have a governing system within what it is they choose to do that ain't no good. We don't know, right? We don't know what discerns a person's what they use as a discernment mechanism. God does. Jesus Christ in the form of a human being, and God in the form of a human being, which is Jesus Christ, knew exactly who he was dealing with. He knew him. And that's the part we need not lose sight of, including myself, who's been on this camera and said, God walked amongst people who didn't do great, but he knew them. He knew their hearts. He knew their stories. He wrote their stories. You see what I'm saying? So when we use that example of God walked with people who were no good, and Jesus rather walked with people that were no good, we do have to understand that that's the difference. When we let certain entities into our world, we are just trusting that we'll be protected, that everything will be fine, that we can handle whatever comes our way if we're not, or whatever the case may be. Christ didn't have that problem because he understood all the people that he walked with. He knew all of the people that he walked with. He understood that they were of a certain caliber of goodness, if not for the presence of whatever their circumstances that kind of sent them down the wrong path. Meeting him and walking with him sent them down the right path. And that's symbolic for us who are believers in Christ, turning away from our sins and walking with Christ, because we understand that symbolically and pretty much literally, he would walk with us. But the nature that you would then turn to Christ would require that you turn away from certain things as you walk with Christ, because you're certainly not going to be doing those things with him. You're certainly not going to be doing those things while he's around. And you trust that he's going to give you the strength and the encouragement to not do those things. So when we talk about the Lord walking with people who were no good, you also enter the understanding of the symbolism of those people too walking with Christ. And in that walk, they essentially have new life. Now, am I saying all PDF files are capable of that? No. I don't think that everybody who has that as a sexual preference is a predator per se. But when you're talking about such things, you're not going to differentiate, because at the end of the day, what's at risk for the discernment of whether or not they should engage in certain behaviors or allow their what comes naturally to them to get out of hand is what sends a child into spaces where they're not safe. You see what I'm saying? And that sin is unforgivable. From what I understand, one of the things the Lord said repeatedly in the Bible is, you shall not harm any of my little ones. You see what I'm saying? And if I'm to assume this person is incorporating all PDF files, then you're talking about a good portion of individuals who are betraying that. And Jesus Christ, understanding their spirit, would not just walk with any old body just because he walked with bad people. He didn't walk with bad people. He walked with people he understood, who he knew, who happened to have done things that they shouldn't have done, who happened to have lifestyles that were unfortunate, that we wouldn't accept as human beings. He understood their hearts, he knew their hearts, and he walked with them. And they walked with him. Stop allowing people to twist Jesus Christ into something that represented things that he had nothing to do with. Selective humanity pushing, racism, land theft. Jesus Christ didn't have nothing to do with any of that stuff. These people are liars. They're deceivers like who they serve. And that deception comes in the form of them pretending to be clergy people and people of God. And it's to give a bad reputation to those people of God so that people on the fence will never turn toward them. That's all that's ever been about. I've preached that on this channel 1,000,000 times, and I want people to understand it when they see it. Jesus Christ was not about harming children, land theft, selective humanity, revenge by any means, reckoning, or any of that. He would defer to his Father for all of those things. He would tell you to do your best to discipline against certain things that would otherwise have you doing those things. And if you walked with him, that's exactly what he would be talking about. It's exactly what he would be on. Loving yourself enough to give yourself a better reputation is to not allow yourself to let your demons flow so that people can find out about what you're doing in the dark, because you wouldn't be doing those things in the dark. To turn to him for the strength to not do those things. Is that what these people are doing? Because if that's not what they're doing, they're probably not going to even turn to Christ in the first place, as to which he's not walking with them because they ain't walking with him. There's an exception to many rules. And God will discern who he forgives and who he doesn't as he sees fit. Not limited to my understanding of what it is I've been taught. But what I can tell you is, if you're doing certain things that harm children, you are not going to be in his good graces. If you're somebody who's comfortable with what victimizes them or takes advantage of them, you're not going to have him on your side in regards to what you're doing. Because in order to be fine with what you're doing, in order to be fine with you and your practices of these behaviors, he would have to then betray them, who is innocent, on behalf of a grown-up who has sinned, who has lost their innocence. And that's just not something God's going to do. He's going to protect those who need the most, those who can help themselves the least, those who understand the least. That's who he's going to come comfort, and that's who he's going to prioritize. Not a grown-up who's lived long, learned his behaviors, and has potentially gotten out of hand in those behaviors. Who potentially grew selfish as the world taught him to be whatever he became in his years in life. No, God is not going to prioritize accepting you over protecting them, the innocent. He's not going to do that. In no form. Not in Jesus Christ's form, not in a cloud, or none of that. He's not going to do that in any form he chooses. That doesn't add up in any way. And I want people to understand where I'm coming from. If you suffer from that type of stuff and you turn to Jesus Christ, I believe he will accept you. But some man who's supposed to be speaking the word of God and teaching people about Jesus Christ, saying that he accepts you in those behaviors, that's wickedness. There's a difference. Because that man who's trying to prop himself up as a preacher does not know your heart. He don't know what your intentions are. And in this conversation, he's blanketing a bunch of people who have all different types of intentions, none of which None of which is acceptable in the society we're in right now. But what it does represent is a bunch of people who have a lot of money, who have a lot of power, and are willing to do any and every damn thing. And those individuals can help him if he incorporates them and normalizes their behaviors in his society, with which he has some sway over based on him being a clergyman. Oh, we accept PDF files. No, we don't. No, we do not. Christianity is not leaving a child vulnerable to incorporating a grown person into a space where we're simply saying it's fine for them to be this way so long as they're looking to turn away from their sins. No, it's okay for them to turn to Christ. It ain't okay to turn to me, because I can't trust that you're going to be safe around the children that I may be having in my life. That's a risk I cannot take. And there's a difference, and that's an understanding and there's respect that I have as a Christian. I don't expect Jesus to turn away from these people, but I don't expect my preacher to turn toward those people and say we all supposed to accept them because they're all redeemable. I can't put my child at risk. Just if they're not redeemable, then I will have allowed some people in this situation into my church, into my circumference, that can harm these children. I can't take that risk. And I don't think Jesus Christ would ask me to. Do you see what I'm saying? That clergyman didn't have nothing good in his heart when he did that. He was leaving children out to dry, saying that he's a friend to all of these people. No, you can't be a friend to all of them. You can't. Because in being a friend to all of them, you're going to let them in. And when you do that, you leave kids unsafe. He understands that. He doesn't care. And that's why you don't trust him. That's exactly what I have to say about that preacher. He don't have the knowledge or the understanding of the Christ that he says he serves. But he going to let any and everybody in. Nah, you can't let any and everybody in. You cannot do that. Not when what it is they stand for ultimately leaves kids unsafe. And potentially victimized. No, you can't leave that person in charge of any group of people if that's what he's pushing. And I don't care how many 1%ers or individuals with power or individuals who have control over this and that. If you're not compromised and you understand what's at risk, you do not accept that stuff. You don't accept that. You're not letting them anywhere near anywhere a child may be. You're just not. Redeemed or not. No. I think it's society's responsibility to protect children at all costs. And eliminate any chance of them not getting that protection, man. Any chance of them not having that protection. If there's a 1% chance that that person is going to be a problem for that child, then it's 100% chance, 100% reasoning behind keeping them away from any children and all children. And any society that doesn't do that is guilty of victimizing children. You leave no room for any risk at all in that regard. And in order for you to be my friend, I would have to trust you with certain things. I have to let you into my life. I have to sit down and break bread with you. So if I'm saying I'm a friend to you, and if I mean that, then that means I'm trusting you with things that in this situation puts other people at risk, puts little ones at risk. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. So with the normalization of this preference, so to speak, with the normalization of what these people are trying to push, trying to normalize first the shock and awe. They're trying to take the shock and awe away, and then they're trying to incorporate bits and pieces of what ultimately is just slight cosigns. Like from what I understand, they're trying to bring the age of consent down to 14 and 12 in the other states. Like that is unreasonable. That's absolutely unreasonable. And who are you doing that for? You ain't doing it for the child. You're doing it for the grown-ups who want to victimize those children, more or less. Nah, you're not going to incorporate that into my society. Not if I'm a part of society. I'm not going along with that law. That's a law I'm going to break every time. If that dude goes anywhere near the kids, then you have to lock me up. This is just what it is. I don't care that you put that law in place 14, 12. I'm not abiding by that. Do you see what I'm saying? As a citizen, I'm not abiding by that. You're not going to victimize my 12-year-old sister, my 14-year-old daughter, or whatever the word would be. No. Just because you want to put that weirdo stuff in the law, you're going to have to bring about more law, come get me for doing whatever I'm going to do to that person for harming that child. That's what's going to happen there. And I feel like there's a lot of Americans who feel the same way. I would suggest they don't bring that age of consent down if they don't want other aspects of law breaking not to go up. Violence, for example, goes up. Trying to normalize things for these 1%ers who are already caught in their preference, now trying to make it okay for them to do whatever it is that they've been doing. No, it's not. They need to be held accountable. You don't need to be changing laws to make life easier on them to be who they are. They need to change. And we need to get them away from children. That's what needs to happen. You don't enable a sick person to continue engaging in their sickness, or a person with an addiction to engage in their addiction. You remove that addiction from their life and you get them the help that they need. You don't enable it. You don't make it worse. You make it easier for them to continue making these decisions that harm themselves and others. No, that has to stop. No matter what the conversation is, but certainly if the conversation is children, no. I'm not rolling with that. You're not going to give me one angle where the preacher man's telling me it's okay, and then another angle where the age of consent is coming down, and then another angle where you're dropping all these loads of information and footage and photos and stuff like that. Trying to normalize all of this, trying to take the pain and the shock and awe away, trying to desensitize the mind to just the presence of this behavior. No, I reject that as an American citizen. I reject that as a person of God. I reject that as someone who has children in my family. I reject that. I do not at all align with that. Whether you put in the law or not, I'm going to break that law. I promise you I will. Children should not be victimized by grown human beings, man. They are not objects of toys to play with. And most importantly, when you do that, you create a normalcy within them that turns them into monsters too. Hurt people, abuse people tend to. It's not something that we don't understand, man. And I'm telling you, man, it's society's responsibility. If we have irresponsible lawmakers who are going to leave children victimized for the sake of their own guilt and the sake of their own sicknesses, it is incumbent upon the people to do something about it. We can't wait for someone else. I'm sorry, y'all, because we've grown up in a world where it's absolutely irresponsible for me to speak like this, but it's even more so irresponsible for me to sit idly while lawmakers push things in that are really bad, really, really bad for our society, man. If you have a solution, instead of just rolling over and letting them do however it goes, let me know. I'm interested. I want to hear what your solutions are, but I don't hear of any solutions yet. I haven't heard anything that I think is effective in saving our children from these lawmakers, man. And from these individuals who have a great deal of power that these lawmakers bend to. I haven't heard a single thing. And they're showing us every day that they have less and less of our moral compass, man. Less and less of what it is that we believe is best for ourselves and representing us. I don't agree with rioting. I don't agree with insurrection. I don't agree with all that. But I don't see no solutions either. Do you see a solution? I see a bunch of people who are just going to sit back and behave like they're supposed to, and these people are going to continue to incorporate this stuff that makes our children less safe, man. And in the same time, silencing people who are telling the truth about various things that are very, very important. I don't know what else to do. I honestly don't. As a law-abiding citizen and as a person who believes himself to be a decent human being, a Christian, I really don't know what else to do, man. They can't lower that age of consent, bro. They can't do that. They can't do that. What they're supposed to be doing is holding people accountable for that behavior and creating pathways to help for people who want to change their behaviors in that regard. Sick people who need to be far away from children and in spaces that are controlled, that ultimately give them the mental help that they need and the discipline or whatever it would be, whatever works, man. I don't know. I'm not a professional in that regard, but I'd imagine they need something that they can go somewhere they can go to not enable that behavior, but to reinforce that they can discipline against that behavior. that they can change and not become the monsters that ultimately that comes naturally to them. Anything less than that is irresponsible from our society, man. And letting these compromised lawmakers push this nonsense, it's going to leave our kids in worse circumstances than we even want to imagine right now. When you normalize that stuff. So that's really been my point of view on this channel for a long time in this regard, man. Try to be as responsible as I can. Because I know the average human being is not talking like that. They're saying get a rope, get the shotgun. That's it. And look, I respect that. But the key is to protect children. If people are hiding, not getting help, not revealing themselves because they're afraid they're going to be tortured for their presence, I don't think that does enough to remove that threat from the world we're in. I don't think it does an effective job of removing that. You know, they call acts of violence demonstrations for a reason. And when you demonstrate, all it does is put a fear in a person, and it puts them in a position to hide. What we need them to do is come forward. And maybe you say, though, that's what the preacher is doing, is saying I'm a friend to them. Maybe they'll come forward. I'll listen. But at the end of the day, if he's saying he's a friend to these people, as a blanketed statement over all people who happen to be that way, then you're letting a lot of predators in the room, man. You're leaving kids completely unsafe, and I think that's completely irresponsible of him as a person of God, as he says, a person of Christianity. I think that's extremely irresponsible. But aligning with the understanding that if you demonstrate against people, that's not going to make them come forward. That's something that we have to be really honest about. Violence only going to keep them quiet, keep them in the shadows, keep them from getting help, and ultimately keep them hurting people, hurting children specifically. I don't believe that really works. I don't believe it works. It'll make me feel better, but I don't think it's going to make that other guy who's watching me demonstrate come forward, and he's going to be in the shadows doing the same stuff he's been doing. Hopefully I catch him. Likely won't. You see what I'm saying? Likely won't. Doesn't work. But enabling them to be themselves or making the laws easier for them, I don't think that works either. Because there's a requisite amount of shame that comes with that behavior anyway. Some people are going to do that stuff in the dark anyway, because it is shameful amongst all of us. So they're not going to step forward. I wonder, man. I wonder where we're headed as a society, man. I wonder what comes of us. I really do, man.
We gotta get a nap. We gotta eat. There's so much to do.
So that's pretty much what I gotta say, man. I've had this conversation on this channel before, not very often, but I've had it before. And I don't have solutions. I'm not some special psychic of a man. I don't know what's in your heart. I don't, you know what I mean? You don't know what's in mine. I respect all of that. That's what it is. But at the end of the day, I can't let everybody in the room. Though I may need to know who everyone is in regards to protecting children, I can't just let people who are comfortable in that regard in the room with me. You know what I mean? I can't do that. I'm not able to look at that as something that is wise or of God or of Christ or anything like that. Not responsibly. I can't say that. No. If that's how you move, you stay over there. And we as a society need to find ways of getting you the help that you need. And if you've already victimized people, we need to do a good job of removing you from society. That is what needs to happen there. Bdf 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.